Wes, Harmin Freyond, and welcome to yet another video. Well, my dear friends, welcome to the review of the third episode of The Witcher, The Diverse Origin. Oh yes, indeed. If you've been following my channel for quite some time, you know that I am a huge fan of the source material of the novels Wiedźmin or Witcher by Andrzej Sapkowski. And if you've seen this show, you know already that it has got nothing to do with the source material. And not only that, but it's really very cringy and kind of poorly made, although I have to admit that this episode, the third episode so far, as of making of this video, is the least horrible of those that I have seen and reviewed. Now, this is a very similar case to what happened with the Prime Video's The Rings of Power, and that is they just took the name of a famous story, famous source material, a famous book series, and they just made their own story, basically. This is Netflix's original Witcher story, with Netflix's original characters, absolutely changing, retconning, destroying everything that Andrzej Sapkowski did. Well, not destroying really, but attempting to do that. You must know by now that the biggest gripe I've got with the show, apart from it not being, well, anything that would have anything to do with the novels or the video games, is that the elves, because it's all about elves and dwarves, right? There are no humans yet. The elves basically look like ordinary people, like ordinary folk that you could find anywhere in any fantasy story. This is as far from the traditional modern, let's say, the 20th century conception of fantasy elves as possible. You have poor elves, ugly elves, rich elves, beautiful elves, bearded elves, and everybody's an elf, but the only thing that makes those characters elves are really just the pointy ears. So we continue following our, diverse group of travelers with, of course, them getting back from one of the alternative realities, and then, of course, meeting more characters, such as our lesbian dwarf, obviously, because, that is everybody. I mean, there are elves of every races, of every religion, of every sexuality, every gender. So why not? Why not having a lesbian elf? Because it's just so very much necessary to point it out, to drag your attention to it. Because it is not enough to just focus on telling a good fantasy story. No. We have to specifically say that, everybody is included here. Well, I have stated that this show is indeed reflecting the modern audience. If modern audience is a group of American activists in their 20s, which I say is a fitting description. So they finally get together, the entire group, and they decide that the only way to defeat the monster that was summoned by Lenny Henry's character is to, with the use of magic and potions, make one of them stronger. Merge their body with the heart and the life force of the monster from the alternative kind of parallel reality, different dimension, whatever you want to call it. And by this, yes, please do listen carefully. By this, they are inventing a fictitious origin of the witches. Yeah. Because, of course, after being introduced with the dwarf and after patting themselves on the back mutually and saying, oh, you're the best, no, you're the best, no, you're the best, no, you're the best, but all men are nitwits, they decide that, or rather, the singer elf, she decides, yeah, I am the best one, I am the strongest one, I am the most badass one, so I will be the one who will undertake this grave task and let myself be transformed into this supernatural being. Well, and then they fall in love with the Fial character, the bearded elf, and they shag, and she wakes up late, so he goes and he undertakes the task himself, yada yada. And of course, they made him into a witcher. Yeah. I mean, I know that Andrzej Sapkowski just took the money and doesn't care about what's happening to his source material, but come on, Andrzej, Come on, like, do you really not care that much that they are trying to shit all over your books? Alright, well, do you. You do you. So, they basically hint to the fact that they were dabbling with necromancy, those two, like, siblings, but not siblings, and this is something similar. So they basically invent the trial of the grasses combined with magic and necromancy, so they make the first witches. I mean, this is absolutely preposterous. And then, of course, this Asian elf, she goes and pretends she wants to sell Fjall to the Empress, and she gets like soldiers from him and money, from her and money and her ancestral sword, and then of course, because no, she's a woman, so she can't really be that bad in this show. It turns out that she didn't really betray them, but she just wanted to get soldiers. I mean, their armor, and the kind of make a deal with another group of elves who save them and take their armor and then go and march on Zentrea. What is the one thing that I really was quite happy and excited about is that there was Dylan Moran. He's got a tiny little role as a leader of those elves that she made up the pact with, and that saved them, and that then they march on the Zentrea with. He's him. Dylan Moran, Bernard Black. If you don't know, you might not know. I mean, most of the American audience certainly doesn't know, but Dylan Moran is a tremendously fantastic Irish comedian, and the creator and the protagonist of the early 2000s British sitcom Black Books. So that is something that really brought some light into my heart. Meanwhile, over at Zentrea, Lenny Henry is imprisoned but then let go because he makes pact with the Empress, and that's really it. It's just the story there moves nowhere. And of course, in between making friends and patting themselves on the back, and then mutual accusations, mainly from the side of the dwarf, the lesbian dwarf, that all elves are evil, and that the dwarves had to endure hundreds and hundreds of years under the overrule of the elves, and that they suffered, yada, yada, yada. They band up with a new created Witcher, and they just march on Zentrea. Fine. Alright. Okay, so, the story is very simple, the story is very linear, and it could have been a good show if they just didn't call it The Witcher, if they didn't just build the entire show on bowing down to the gods of inclusion, representation, and diversity, because it's very on the nose. It's very apparent, it's very clear, it's very pathetic and very cringy. If they just made a story about a group of travelers, having to go and destroy something, which is the most cliche in modern fantasy. Just, just a journey to get something or to destroy something, right? Kind of inspired by one of the greatest authors of modern fantasy, but nah, never mind. But they could have done that, and I would consider it an okay show if they also kind of came to their senses and made elves the way elves should be according to the modern fantasy standards. It would be okay, but no, they had to steal the name, they had to build the show on diversity, and they just had to make it all stupid. But I have to say, once again, I have to repeat that at least there were a couple of bright moments in this episode. There were a couple of funny moments, amusing moments that were actually very well written. I mean, the jokes. There was Dylan Moran, there was excitement, there was good action. But what I have to say is that there is at least one thing at which the Blood Origin wins over the Rings of Power in a positive sense, and that is the visual aspect of the show. It looks very good. I mean, the show looks like a decent fantasy. So, there you go. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. And that will be all. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm out of here.